This is Frank Islam, Chairman and CEO of FI Investment Group and your host of Washington Current Review, where we interview leading voices from business and politics and explore the topics of current interest that impact you, the viewer. Today, our guest is Saqib Ali, Delegate to the Maryland House of Representatives. He will be discussing political issues at the state and national level. Saqib, I'm delighted to have you on the show. Thank you for coming.
It's my pleasure, Frank. Thanks for having me here.
Tell me, why did you get into politics?
Well, you know, I wanted to contribute to my society, just like you've contributed to our society. And I have many friends, and they have a lot of talents. Some of them are great doctors, lawyers, businessmen like you. Each person contributes in their own way, you know, writers, builders. Unfortunately, I don't have any such talent. So I didn't have such a gift. And for me, the most direct path to influence society in a positive way was to run for elective office. So I did that in 2006, and I was fortunate enough to come away victorious in that election.
I'm sure you will make a lot of impact on our society and the community in our country as well. Thank you for serving our nation. This is a noble cause.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. I think it is. I think especially for members of our community, for all minority communities, really, Latino,
yes.
African American, Caucasian, Chinese.
You're absolutely right.
We all need to get involved as much as possible.
Right. What issue are you most interested in, at state level and at the federal level?
Well, there's sort of a host of, there's an overriding political philosophy that I have. And that is, the reason I got into politics was to really try and look out for the little guy. The way I see it, the larger interests can take care of themselves. The large, very large, wealthy corporations, the governments, they can take care of themselves. But sometimes I felt as a person, as just a regular civilian, that there's nobody really looking out for the little guy, or there's not enough people looking out for the little guy.
Give me some example of things that have been involved.
So, well, I mean, within that sort of political philosophy, there's a whole range of issues. I'll give you an example. Just recently, at the federal level, the president pushed a legislation to reform our credit card industry.
Correct.
Now, I thought, and the president agreed, and many people agreed, that the credit card industry is a predatory industry. It puts people in positions where they have difficulty paying so that they can continue to make money off them. There's other industries like that. I think the payday loan industry, it takes advantage of poor people. Bail bonds industries. There's lots of places where you see, I think, there's places where consumers and consumers' interests are not being adequately protected. And so my job, I see it in the legislature, is to try and move good policy to try and protect those interests. I'll give you an example, of a very example that's very close to my heart, and that is that I found recently that that some credit card companies, in American Express, namely, was doing something really awful to their cardholders. And what they were doing was they were taking some of their cardholders that had perfect credit, perfect payment history, and they were, if those cardholders shopped at certain stores, or bought certain, or had certain spending patterns,
correct,
they would reduce their credit line, simply because other people who shopped at those stores had bad credit. So you can have perfect credit, but you can go to some store where other people who have bad credit shop, and they'll lower your credit line.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. So I pushed a bill through the House of Delegates to ban that practice. It passed the House. It nearly passed the Senate. We're going to try again next year to get a law passed in Maryland.
Well, that's good. So you're now the hope for the hopeless and the voice for the voiceless.
Well, I don't know about that, but I do my little bit to try.
You mentioned about the minorities.
Yes.
Ethnic and racial and all kinds of minorities. Why do you think they should get engaged into politics? What do they get out of it for having engagement in the politics?
Well, look, you know, politics is life. It's they're intertwined, and the decisions that are made by politicians are ones that affect our society.
No question about that.
Altogether.
Right.
So whether you're a first generation Latino, or whether you're a fifth generation Caucasian American, these decisions will affect you. What happens in your schools, what kind of roads you have, what kind of mass transit solutions, jobs, all these things affect us, and everybody should be at that table. Everybody in society should be at that table making those decisions. If there's one group that's not at that table, well, that community will not be represented, and those interests will not be represented. So I think it's important for all groups, all ethnicities, religions.
They all got to join their hands together.
Well, everybody's got to.
Everybody got a stake. They're stakeholders.
Everybody's got to. Exactly. They're all stakeholders. They all got to participate, and our society is stronger for their participation. And those societies are stronger too, because then they see, they feel more part of the American society, and they feel invested.
Mm-hmm. Well, what's your analysis about the dynamics that's happening between the Republican and Democrats nationally, and locally as well?
Sure. Well, it's a tough kind of thing. Up till 1994, the Republicans were ascendant. They were in a good position. Democrats kept having losses. But you really saw after 2004 what happened. The country really got sick of George Bush and
George W. Bush
and the right wing, some of his right wing policies.
You're talking about neocon.
Well, I'm talking about the war.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the mishandling of Katrina.
Very good.
I'm talking about
There's a host of issues.
The Attorney General scandal.
You're right.
The Terry Schiavo case.
Mm-hmm.
The Scooter Libby case, which was, they pardoned somebody who was convicted of perjury just to protect the vice president. All these things added up, and people just got sick of it. And people also got sick, people got sick of being scared and being told that they have to be fearful. And I think the Republicans played that card too much, and in 2006 there was a backlash against that, and people said, no more, we're not going to live in fear, we're not going to live in bigotry all the time, and we're going to think with our heads instead of with our fear. And that's what you saw in 2004. That's what you saw in 2006, and that's what you're continuing to see in 2008 and 2009. Now, nationally, the Republican Party is contracting right now, and they're having a sort of interceding battle whether they should be a big tent party or a small tent party. And I feel that where they are right now, they're leaving out the minority groups.
Well, they got Michael Steele as an
have
African American, as the Republican National Committee chairman.
You're right. They have one, but I think some of the things that are going on. I'll tell you another thing which I think is very, very odd that's happening in the Republican Party. They are pushing some sectors of the Republican Party, and by no means the Democratic Party is perfect. The Democratic Party is not perfect. I'll be the first to admit it. But what's happening, I'm seeing in the Republican Party, there's some strains of extreme libertarianism almost, to the point of saying government is bad. We should shrink government. The federal government should not interfere. They should get out of our lives and get out of our business. Now that's a
Reagan philosophy.
Well, that may be, to an extent, that's good, maybe. But here's the problem. A lot of people, when the economy is suffering, they depend on government to help them get a job, help them grow the economy, help them educate their children. And if you take away, help them pay for health care, those things are mainstream American values. And if there is some party that says we don't want any government,
right,
we don't want public education, we don't want any taxes, we don't want the federal government telling us anything, that may appeal to some people, but it's not going to be a large appeal, a winning appeal.
Good.
So that's the difficulty I see that the Democrats face. the Republicans face, and Democrats have their own challenges. You know?
No question. Well, thank you very much for coming to the show.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, Frank.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Have me on any time. Thank you.
Well, you should talk about a financial contribution of the political campaign that we didn't talk about it.
Oh, sure.
That is our show. Until next time, this is Frank Islam of FI Investment Group wishing you a great week. Thank you for watching.